Hello, everyone, and welcome to KNOWN Coworking and SCORE Fairfield County's workshop on 7 things you need to know when starting a service-based business. I'm Bob Hogan, the workshop coordinator today and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'm going to be your host, and our presenter is Belinda Sandor. More on Belinda in just a minute. This virtual and in-person workshop is being done in collaboration with KNOWN Coworking, which is providing the facilities for the in-person part of today's workshop. And I'd now like to turn it over to Barb Nangle at KNOWN in New Haven to give some brief introductory remarks. Barb?
Hey, Bob, thank you so much. I'm unable to share my video, so I don't know if you want to put me on video or not, but welcome everybody.
Let me.
Okay. Oh, still not working.
Yep, just a second.
Okay.
How about now?
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this workshop. Thank you so much for joining us. There's only two of us here in person today. But for those of you who are in the Connecticut area, I want to tell you a little bit about KNOWN Coworking. We are located in downtown New Haven at 139 Orange Street. We are an entrepreneur serving organization, and we're really excited about planning a series of hybrid workshops with SCORE. One of the things that's amazing about having moved to the world of Zoom is that we get to reach people that are in much larger areas than we used to. And we have this wonderful device here in the room that's called the Owl Meeting Pro that's perfect for hybrid meetings. We're not going to be using that today because we're using the webinar mode. But one of the things I do want to tell folks about is, again, this is for folks in the Connecticut area, is we have a BIPOC business accelerator called the Knownpreneurs Growth Lab. And we've just gotten funding for the next 5 years for this program. We just recruited our 4th cohort of Knownpreneurs, and we will be starting recruitment for our 5th cohort in about 2 weeks. So if you are interested, we're looking for BIPOC entrepreneurs who are in the growth phase. So they need to have been in business for at least the last 2 years and have a minimum of 50K in revenue in the last year. If you have questions about that, feel free to email me. You can reach me at barb@knowncoworking.com. As I said, we're an entrepreneur serving organization, which is one of the reasons why we're really excited to to partner with SCORE, because they have so many resources and fabulous mentors that help entrepreneurs regardless of what stage they are in their journey. So I think I've said all I want to say, and I'm going to turn things back over to Bob.
Great. All right. Thanks, Barb. Just some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a nonprofit national partner of the SBA. And locally here at SCORE Fairfield County, we have about 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry process and subject matter expertise. And we offer 3 primary value-added services to entrepreneurs. First of all, we offer one-on-one business mentoring, as Barb mentioned, and you can access that using the yellow bit.ly link on the screen, or you can go to our website and click on Request a Mentor. Secondly, we offer a wide range of business education programs like the one here today, roughly about 100 throughout the year. And lastly, we offer extensive resources, including business tools and information on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. Our next SCORE workshop will be next Tuesday, October 11th at 7 p.m. at the Westport Library. The topic is networking and submitting your business case, with Diane Winston and Joe McCaffrey presenting. And again, you can find more specifics on that workshop on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. And if you're on our website, you can also access a large number of recorded webinars on demand. And those webinars are from a wide range of business topics. Just some logistics about today's event. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, although Belinda may choose to take some as she goes. And if you're attending via Zoom and have a question, please use the Q&A button, which is at the bottom of your screen, and you can type your question in at any time. If you are attending in person at KNOWN, Barb will take your questions during the Q&A. Our workshop will end sharply at 3 o'clock to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available on our website within the next day or so. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Belinda Sandor. Belinda is the founder of the VA Connection, a professional online community With over 27,000 members, the VA Connection helps established and aspiring virtual assistants start, grow, and scale their businesses using the skills that they already have. They do this through their online community courses and coaching programs. And I'll now turn it over to Belinda. Belinda.
All right. Hi. Thanks, everybody. All right. So I want to give you a little bit more background about my entrepreneurial journey. Some of you may see yourselves in my story, and others may see glimpses, but I think it's important to set the stage. So after 17 years of corporate life, I went out on my own. I'm just going to move my mic here to start my own business. My daughter was about 3 months old, and I had just been laid off from my corporate job right after 9/11. So back then in 2001, which is really the dark ages of the internet, I decided to open an online baby gift store. I was a first-time entrepreneur. I loved the idea of this, but it was very stressful. And I found that practically nothing that I learned in corporate translated to small business. This was a big surprise. In many ways, my business was a great success. I had thousands of happy customers, lots of beautiful products, lots of press exposure. And from the outside, it looked like I was completely killing it. But I was not. I actually was not. I was stressed out. I was burned out. And I had gotten myself into kind of a financial train wreck. I didn't have the support that I needed. I was trying to figure out everything on my own, which is not a great idea. And then my life blew up and something had to change. So this is me in 2010 when my daughter was 9 years old. My dream business had failed. My confidence was crushed. I was getting divorced. I'm a newly single mom. I didn't have a job, and I really didn't want to go back to corporate because I wanted to be home with my daughter, and I needed to make an income. I was the sole provider for us. I had a ton of debt, which happens when businesses fail, unfortunately. And it was, like I said, unbelievably stressful. And the problem was I didn't know how I was going to get out of this mess. I was almost 50 years old. And I thought that at that time, which looking back now at 61 seems kind of ridiculous, but I felt like I was at this huge crossroads. Like the choices that I had made had consequences, and I wasn't going to really be able to turn that around. You know, I was determined to try, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. So then I got the idea. I was going to offer admin work to entrepreneurs and start my own business. I had been a secretary and an office manager in my 20s and 30s. And so I just decided that's what I was going to do. I liked the work. I felt like I was pretty good at it. So I just started telling everyone that I knew, which when you're a service-based business, it's a big principle. And we're going to talk about that in detail. So I'm at the school bus stop. It's, about 7 o'clock in the morning. And one of the dads says, "Hey, what are you up to these days?" And I said, "Well, I just started my own business." And his entire face changed because he had started a business as well. I didn't know this, and he was drowning in administrative details. So he hired me. We worked together for quite a while. I helped him do simple everyday things like pay his bills, answer emails, things like that. My second client, I got in the buffet line of a wedding. And what my business turned out to be is called virtual assistants. And back then in the dark ages, I don't even know if that was invented, but that's what it turned out to be called. And it's much of what a lot of you all may or may not have learned to do during the pandemic. But for virtual assistants who provide admin or technical or graphical support to entrepreneurs and small businesses, we were kind of ahead of the game. So I named my business Rocket Girl Solutions, and it's been thriving since the beginning. I've worked with over 225 clients, so I have seen some things in the back, which is the basis of what I'm going to share with you today. And I've made over $1 million. The first year I was in business, I made $70,000, and every year after that, I was able to make $100,000. So if you have had a business in the past and it has failed, that does not mean you can't make your next business successful. You just have to learn from, from your mistakes. Okay. So that's some hope. At 50, it's not too late. And a lot has changed. This is my new family. Greg, my husband, I have 4 stepsons. Emily's all grown up, and we got married in 2021. The core to really turning everything around for me, including my personal life, was I learned how to run a business. I learned how to lean into it. I got the help that I needed. I listened to my mentors and my coaches, and I started doing the right things. Now, notice I didn't say the hard work, but the right work. And it's an important distinction. I invested a lot of time and a lot of, what is it, elbow grease into the business, but by being focused on the right things, it made a huge difference. Now, I've been a successful virtual assistant, as I mentioned, for 12 years, but 3 years ago, I started the VA Connection, which is what Bob mentioned. And at the VA Connection, I help others create their own businesses as virtual assistants. And we help established and aspiring VAs create, grow, and scale their VA businesses using the skills that they already have. That tends to be a roadblock for a lot of entrepreneurs, is that they want to wait until they know everything, until they have everything, and you really can't do that. So that's a big part of what we teach. And we do this in our free online community, and our courses and our coaching programs. And we have been growing very strong for the last 3 years. We have 27,000 members in our community in over 47 countries, which just still kills me. And it's very exciting. So this is where my focus is now. And as of the end of the year, my business, Rocket Girl Solutions, will be retiring. So let's jump in for the topic today. And again, please, any questions you have during my talk, please put them in. Don't wait till the end. I'm happy to answer them as we go. I want to make sure that of the 7 areas we're going to talk about, that it's crystal clear as we move through. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is 7 things that are important to know when you're starting or running a service-based business. So I wonder how many of you, and I'd love to hear in the chat or the Q&A or the chat, how many of you are in business already, or how many of you are just thinking about it. And one of the things I want to start with is, when you're a service-based business, you are the product. You are the product. So it's important that you put your best foot forward, when it comes to being in front of your prospects, your clients, and all the people. That's really important. And there are many things to think about before you jump in. Okay, so here's a question. How are we defining service-based? Okay, good question. Thanks for that. Service-based is, so I provide virtual assistance, right? So I provide virtual assistance. So I do administrative work. So it's me performing the work versus me selling a baby gift or shoes. So a financial planner could be, service-based. A marketing consultant could be service-based. A nutritionist could be service-based. They can have products as well, but at the core of what they're providing is their service. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, good. So there's a lot of things to think about while as you're deciding if you want to go into business for yourself. Now, the first one is you want to think about, there's no one telling you what to do. There's no expected hours. And this is the good news. And this is the bad news as well, right? Because you're the one that has to provide the structure. You're the one that has to provide the structure. I'm just going to move my Zoom bar over a minute. So here are some questions to ask. Do you want to be a business owner? Which is very different from, I'm good at this thing and I think people will pay me. And I want you to take a second to get that distinction. It's different to be really, it's one thing to be a really good plumber, which is a service-based business, and it's another to be a successful plumbing business owner. So that's what we're going to talk about today, the things you can do to move you on to the other side. So it looks like Michelle's been in business 3 years with one business and 8 months with my other. Carol, I love that. I had 2 prior learning businesses in process of creating a new business. One was service, but this time it's a more intimate service. That's great. That's great. So the question is, do you want to decide when you work? Do you want to decide who you work with? Do you want to decide how much you'll earn? And while that might be, it might sound really like, wow, I would love that. You also have to think about, are you self-guided? Will you get yourself at your desk? Can you meet deadlines with clients? Will you follow through with your ideas? Because this is very different from having a job. And I know this firsthand, but I also know it because my husband is a CPA and he's very much of a job guy. I am like, we're on a walk and we're not talking, and I'm thinking about like, I could do this and I could do that. And, I just have this different kind of thought process when it comes to work. We're pretty much at 5 o'clock, he's done. I'm never done. And so while I'm not suggesting you can't take a break, it's just very exciting for me to be an entrepreneur. And I am, and so that's something to look at. The other thing I want to talk about is risk. Now, risk is kind of an interesting thing. So I was raised by a lifetime IBMer, right? So my dad, cradle to grave, one job, pension, the whole thing. And my brothers have similar jobs and very successful. And when I started out on my own, I was really doubting myself, and I was thinking, am I crazy? Like, am I crazy? Because, where's the 401k? Where's the vacation, all of those things. And I thought, this is kind of risky to have your own business. And then I remembered getting laid off. And here's the thing, I call this the single point of failure. So here you are, you're bopping along, you're at work, something happens, completely out of your control, for example, and all of a sudden you're being laid off because someone in the company decided that you were no longer necessary. Now, that's a single point of failure, where when I have a number of clients, at the height of my VA business, I had over 50 clients, 1 or 2 of them leave, no big deal, no big deal. Because when you know how to get clients, it's not hard, once you figure that out. So being in business, really, it creates self-reliance, you're not dependent, which is kind of a shift in thinking about it. And I would love to know in the chat, what you guys think about that, because that is a really different thing. Risk, it's a shift in the paradigm, since it used to be secure to have a job. Now, for me, at least, all these years in, it feels secure to have my own business. All right, so this is important when I want to talk about. So when you're an entrepreneur, even when you're just starting out, there are clues really, that are going to tell people if you're serious about your business or not. Now, most of them are easy to take care of, and a lot are overlooked, and it's important to not do that. It's important to really look around. And so here are just a few of them that I want to talk about. The first thing is your email address. If you've been in business for more than really 30 seconds, I want your email address to be your name at yourbusiness.com. I want you to stop using at Comcast. I want you to stop using at Yahoo. I want you to stop even using at Gmail or AOL. Okay. I want you to stop that, because it's really a clue that you're kind of dabbling, and that's not the impression you want to give. The other thing is, I want you to talk. Oh, and I want to tell you, to have that kind of email, it's about $6 a month. Okay, $6 a month. So this is not a big expense, and certainly one that if you're going into business for yourself, you should be able to absorb. Now, I also want to talk about your email signature. Your email signature is the information about how to contact you that's at the bottom of your email. So your name, your business name, a link to your website. Now, this is a great way to spread the word about your business, and we're going to talk more about that in a couple of minutes. But as a result, I decided when I started my business, Rocket Girl Solutions, to only have one email address. Now, if you're in corporate, you likely have a personal and a business, and that's smart, because if you lose your job or leave your job, all of that information gets, erased by the IT department. However, when you have your own business, you don't have to worry about that. So this way, everybody that I come in contact with, my daughter's teachers, the dean at her college, my friends, everybody sees my logo, they see my website address, And it's a great way to spread the word because people will say, what's Rocket Girl? Well, let me tell you, right? Let me tell you. Another thing that that you want to look at is your voicemail message. Really more important than you think. So if some of you likely you have reached 203-555-1212. You're missing an opportunity. Much better, much friendlier, much more approachable. This is Belinda Sandor. Please leave a message. I'll call you back as soon as I can. Or this is Belinda Sandor. You've reached Rocket Girl Solutions. Please leave me a message. So a way to really spread the word again, right? To spread the word again. All right. Business cards, they're still necessary. They're still necessary. And if you are not able to design one for yourself, get someone to help you with that. Okay. And we're going to talk about help and leveraging yourself in a couple of minutes, but I want you to think about having a professionally designed, beautifully printed business card. Like, I remember last time I had a job, it was like $500 for a box of business cards. It was a big deal. Now you can spend $20 and have a beautifully designed, beautiful business card. Okay. So make sure you're looking around and taking yourself seriously so people can see you're in business for real. Very small, inexpensive things make a huge difference. Okay, so this is huge, guys. I really want you, if you're multitasking, come back in because this makes such a difference with my students. It's made such a difference in my business and also for my clients. So it doesn't matter what business you're in, you need to think about this. So somebody says, what do you do for work? And we act like it's a surprise. We're not prepared. You need to be prepared. Critical, all right? Critical. Because what happens is we start talking and we start talking and talking and talking, and we just keep talking and we completely overwhelm the person. And then we might start using jargon and all kinds of things, right? So you really want to practice this. So let me show you an example, all right? I'm an X. I work with XYZ. I specialize in 1, 2, 3, and then I want you to stop talking, okay? I want you to stop talking. Now, what I said as Rocket Girl is I'm a virtual assistant. I work with solo professionals and entrepreneurs. I help them with the admin pieces of their business, like website updates, PowerPoint presentations, and email newsletters. And then I stop talking. It's so important. We even have a sticker. We have a sticker, okay? So here's why. Now, I can do 20 jillion more things than the 3 that I just said. However, people won't remember it. And if I use jargon or if I start talking about how I can create marketing automation, I might sound like the smartest person in the room, but no one's going to know what I do and they're not going to care. So this is really, really critical. All right, really critical. So be prepared. You want to practice this. You don't want to have it sound like an elevator pitch. You know, how many of you, if someone has said, what do you do for work? And the other person says, oh, I was working on it. Oh, I have an elevator pitch. Okay, so I help blah, blah, blah. You know, you don't want to do that. You want it to be, we're having spaghetti for dinner. I'm a virtual assistant. Roll off your tongue. Someone should be able to wake you up out of a dead sleep and say, what do you do? And you just say the words. So you're going to need to practice this. Really, really important. Okay. Really, really important. I have a friend, I love her, and I've tried to help her with her business. She's right out of corporate, and she tells people that she helps entrepreneurs develop their marketing prop. I don't know what that means. And I've said to her, I don't know what that means. She's like, what do you mean you don't know what that means? That's not the point. The point is that I feel like I'm a fairly intelligent person who's a business owner, who's probably her ideal client in many ways, and I have no idea what she does. So please don't do that. So clear, concise, and do people understand, know when to stop talking, and then what will happen is you'll have a conversation. They'll say, well, tell me about that, or do you do this? And honestly, I've helped all different service professionals with this in the past. So take a picture of this with your phone and spend some time on it. Okay, really important. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about now is how do you attract your clients? Really important, because having a steady stream of clients is how you're going to stay in business. right? By having a steady flow of clients. Now, service-based businesses are either 100% or really close to 100% based on referrals. Those are the best clients because someone has gushed about you, told them how wonderful you are. And now for the most part, when referrals come to me, they say, let's talk for a couple minutes. I want to make sure you can handle this. So-and-so says you're amazing. Are you taking new clients? Right? It can be as simple as that. No selling at all. Okay. Now, in order to attract that steady stream of clients, you're going to need to stay in touch with people that you know, people that you like, not people you want to marry or people that you only want to have dinner with, but people that are not disagreeable to you. You know, that guy, when you had a job, don't keep in touch with him, but everybody else keep in touch with. And the way you're going to want to do this is you're going to want to be very systematic about it, okay? Because otherwise it's just, oh yeah, over here. You know, I actually have a spreadsheet that tracks how I keep in touch with people and who I keep in touch with. So there are a couple things, there's a couple ways to do this. Now, the number one, hands down, no kidding way to grow your business and establish yourself as an expert is to regularly and consistently publish an email newsletter. That is the number one way. I'm not talking about selling. I'm not talking about selling at all to get clients because it doesn't work. When we try to sell to people, it feels like a transaction and nobody likes that, right? We've been in a situation like that before, all of us, you know, or we get direct messages on LinkedIn from someone who wants to sell us something. It's like, really, I don't even know you, right? That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So, so email newsletters are a great way because there's so many ways to establish connection, showcase expertise, you know, remind them about services that you offer, and then you'll want to have a link so people can get on your calendar. And if you're watching and you're part of the Fairfield County SCORE program, I'm about 100% sure that I did a webinar on email newsletters. So check that out in the archive. So that's the number one way to stay in touch with people. I have started both Rocket Girl Solutions and the VA connection. I grew them and had substantial success by beginning with an email newsletter. Email newsletter also helps in an unexpected way. When you write about what you do, you get better at talking about it because you've already thought it through. You've already struggled with, well, what is it I'm doing? You know, so it's a really good way to do this. So I'm just going to look at the questions real quick just to say, okay, so Michelle is asking about the email company for $6. So you can get email addresses at three places, maybe more, but I'm going to tell you about three. Gmail, so Google Workspace, that's who I use. Microsoft, so that can be 365. You can just get something called Business Email Essentials or something, it's $6 or $7, or you can get free email at your internet service provider. So GoDaddy, HostGator, you can do that as well. I really like Gmail for many reasons. It's easy to integrate with the whole rest of my life, and that's what I use. What do I think about a virtual business card? So here is the thing about virtual business cards. So you have to think about human behavior. Now, if someone gives me their business card, I put it on my desk, I move it around, I might put it in my drawer, but I keep it. If you give me something on here, I'm not going to find it again, right? I'm not going to find it again. So while it's cool, I'm not sure how effective it is. So I would, if you want to do that, awesome. I would also hand them a physical card. I would hand them a physical card. Okay, good. All right, so the other thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about social media. Social media alone is not going to move the needle on your business. Neither is search engine optimization, SEO. Again, we are trying to get clients by referrals, which is all based on relationships. So think about it this way. Two people are having coffee. One of them says, I need a dentist. Do you like your dentist? Well, I love my dentist. So I'm like, yes, go here, go here. You want to be top of mind. You want people to clearly understand what you do so that when someone says, do you know anyone that does whatever it is you do? The other person says, yeah, call Jane, call John, call Pete, right? That's how this works. So that's why it's important that we talk about our work in a clear, specific way, and why I want you to practice that. All right. So social media is a way to augment that, to be in the feed. But think about how we look at the phone. We're like this on social media. I'm not going to stop unless what I like to do is I like to post content that brings people back to my newsletter. So, I'm sorry, back to my blog, which is where I put my newsletter after I post it. So that is a great way to bring people back to something that's meaningful. And please, 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 please do not post on social media 10 reasons why you should hire me or 10 reasons why you need my services, because it's just noise. It's just noise. It's not going to do anything. So, and if it does do something once, it's not going to be reliable. So create content, write about what you do, get help if you don't know how to do that. I had no idea how to do it when I first started out, but it's amazing. I have done, and I could do hours on email newsletters. Okay. So don't waste your time on social media in a way that's not going to be productive. Your contacts, your email addresses is the most valuable part of your business. You don't want to get tied up into a platform that's going to be, so for example, Facebook, right? So Facebook's the cool thing. It used to be MySpace, Yahoo used to be the Google, so you don't want to tie yourself down to something that might change. So yes, I run my organization primarily on Facebook. I have these 27,000 members in my group. I also have 27,000 email addresses because I've asked everyone for them. So I can pivot. You don't want your feet to be tied down to one platform. Okay. So really, really think about that. The other thing I want to say, and this is, this might not be good news, but I need to say it out loud. I've heard my students say to me, I know it's going to take time. It's only been 6 months, my business it's just any minute. And I don't want you to fall into this trap. You can have a client or clients right away. Spreading the word, writing a newsletter, getting out there is how it happens. Time is not a factor. 100% time is not a factor. Okay, so please don't hide behind that. Yes, you need time to get the word out, but you can, school bus stop, wedding line, right? You can get it out all over the place. I've been hired by my dry cleaner. I've been hired by my daughter's driving instructor, business owner, because I had a conversation with her, not about me, about them. And that turned into a conversation about what I do. And then it turned into a conversation about how we might work together. Okay. Build relationships. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about planning. Do you have a plan for your business? I want to talk about, setting specific goals. Goals are really important. It's really important that goals be specific and measurable. So I hear people say all the time, and this is important, I just need 3 more clients. When I have 3 more clients, everything's going to be fine. Now, while the number 3 might sound very specific, clients typically come in at different dollar amounts, right? So you don't really necessarily need 3 clients. You might need $5,000 a month. So can you see like the difference in that? So I want to encourage you to lean into more specific goals that you have control over, because I have seen business owners, they say I need 3 more clients, and then client number 1 doesn't turn out to be as busy or need what they want, the services as much as originally was thought, which is usually the case. And so now I'm like, I was depending on them and now they're not doing it. And now I'm diverting all of my attention over to why this client isn't great. And now I can't make the money that I want, right? So what I want you to do is continuously collect clients, continuously collect clients. and make your goals be specific in terms of dollar amounts, in terms of, revenue, monthly revenue, things that you are in charge of, things that you can measure. Okay. So the good thing about this is that when you have goals such as the one I just described, you're going to know when you're on track, right? And you'll be able to celebrate. And that's a big part of what entrepreneurs forget to do. We are so busy with like, okay, great, I did that, now I'm off to this, now I'm off to this, and never really taking the time just to settle into, saying, wow, I did this thing that I never thought I could do. High five, high five. So that's really important as well. And then the thing is, being off track is not a big deal if you know you're off track. The problem with my business, my first business, was that I didn't know how far off track I was until it was too late. So you really want to know where you stand. And we're going to talk about that a little more right now. So if you have any questions, just pop them right in. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to your money from the start. It's critical. Service or product-based businesses, you need to have a separate business bank account, and you need to keep good records. The reason that you need to do this are many. The biggest one is that if you commingle your funds with your personal funds, your business and your personal, especially in the beginning when you may or may not be profitable, the IRS might decide that this is a hobby. Whatever it is your hobby, and it's not a legitimate business expense. So that is the number one reason. If you don't want to go to the expense, because sometimes business accounts cost more money, just get a separate personal account. The key is to not commingle the money. You want to keep it really separate. You also want to review your bank statements. And I don't mean on your phone, like you log into the online account, you scroll, you're going to miss important things. You're definitely going to miss important things. And something as simple as a $10, expense that you signed up for and forgot can easily turn out to be $120 or even more by the time you do your taxes or reconcile your bank account and realize where you stand. So you definitely don't want to do that. Okay. So every month, print them out or look carefully on the screen. And I mean, with your finger, go down, and I want you to know what every single thing is. Another trap that entrepreneurs fall into is buying software that's a good deal, but they don't need it yet. Lifetime access. I've seen so many people fall into that. So running my service-based business with 52 clients at the height, all of my expenses for my business were well under $200 a month. I'm just running through the numbers. It was probably more like $125 a month to run the whole business very successfully. So don't feel like you need to buy into some big, giant, expensive system. When I started out, I had a laptop, a pencil or a pen, and a notebook. And then over time, I built my systems out. There are many, many free tools for solo professionals that you can start with. And as you start to make money, or when it starts to become a toleration, something that's driving you crazy, that you can pay for. But I do see a lot of people say, oh, I need this big CRM. I'm going to be, really busy, all the things. And, they're spending 60, 70, 80, $100 a month or more before that's necessary. And I also want you to know where you stand for the year all the time. I created for myself a spreadsheet where I put in all the money that's coming into the business, the revenue, and then there's a formula so that it's added up and divided by the number of months. So what I can see is if in January I make $10,000, in February $10,000, in March I make $10,000, the average is $10,000. And I can see that if I take the average month and I multiply it by 12, I'm going to make $120,000 that year. So it's important to know that. And it's important to know that for a number of reasons. One, when we're working alone, it's easy to stress ourselves out because we go by how we feel. You need to go by what the numbers actually are, because, you might have a really big couple of weeks, and then for a week, maybe no new clients or no money comes in, and you can start to make decisions based on how that feels. And I really want you to look at the numbers. And what I've found is most of the time by doing that, I think, okay, I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm just getting panicky, and I have to admit, there are a lot of systems of tracking in my business that I use all the time. And I find that two things happen. When I'm tracking something, it's easier to see the results, and it's easier to get the results because I'm spending time on it. So here's an example that's not business related. Let's say I want to lose 10 pounds. So if I start tracking my weight and I make decisions based on what's actually happening on the scale versus how I feel, I'll get the results. It's funny, my husband just lost 20 pounds and he's tried to do that so many times. And he said to me, all right, I really want to do it. I'm like, okay, it's your time. And I just said, you have to write down the number. And he said, what do you mean? I'm like, every morning, get on the scale, write down the number. And he was able to lose the weight pretty quickly, because when he lost 5 pounds, he's thinking, I'm not eating licorice. Like, I'm not going to do that. I lost 5 pounds. Where in the past, day 2, he would be with Mike and Ike, having some candy, just because he's not, the number's not in front of him. It's the same thing in business. Whatever you track, the number of new clients, the amount of revenue you bring in, what you do to market your business, how many networking events you go to. I really recommend, tracking these things so that you can see the progress and so that you can see the results. And this lesson I learned the very hardest way with my first business. I thought that if I just worked harder or more, that I was going to get there. I just need to work harder. And I cannot even tell you how hard I worked. I mean, like crazy hard work. And it doesn't change your numbers. It doesn't change your numbers. You have to change your plan or your strategy. That's what moves the needle. All right. So the other thing I want to talk about is getting help. And I'm reading a book right now. It's by Michael, I think it's Michalowicz or something like that. He also wrote Profit First and the Pumpkin Plan. And this book is called Clockwork. And I've read other books in the past, and it absolutely helped with my success in the 2 businesses that I have now. And I'm thrilled to be reading it again, just to sort of see where I am and where new improvements can be made. And this book is all about how to streamline your business. To be successful in any business, but I think really service-based, because it's just us a lot of times and we tend to do it all ourselves. We need to remove ourselves from the repetitive tasks that no longer require our brain. And one of the things that the author talks about in this book is that one of the things that as entrepreneurs, we don't spend enough time doing is developing, thinking, future casting. We spend a lot of our time doing. And I got so bogged down with that recently that I was killing myself. And I was like, okay, enough of this. And I have 80 hours of support at the VA connection. I have a team who's supporting me, but even if at that level, I was still doing too much. And so it's important to keep looking at this. Now, how you can tell if you can delegate it is if it's a clear process and it's repetitive and your brain is no longer required, right? Your brain is no longer required. So for example, let's say you're a coach or you onboard, whatever you're doing, you're onboarding new clients. So I created a checklist of 10 things that need to happen to onboard a new client, right? Like add them to my CRM, put them on my email newsletter list, send them a new client welcome letter, that I wrote. I can give that to my team. They let me know it's done. I don't have to think about it. Now, I did bring my intelligence to it when I made the list, right? But now I don't have to run that system. Also, specialty tasks. If there are things you're not good at, for me, it's graphics. I have a graphic designer who I bring in when I need help. And in the beginning, I felt really bad about this. I felt guilty, like I was being financially irresponsible. Who am I? I can't afford this guy. But the result is I can give him $85 and he can do fabulous stuff for an hour, or I can spend 3 or 4 hours doing it and not get a good result and not feel good about it. And I've missed my Rocket Girl business. I charged $100 an hour. I have now missed out on $400 of billable time to save $85. So you have to look at that. You really need to think about, that even in the beginning, because you can't wait until you're successful to get help, because you can't get successful without the help. And I hope that makes sense. I just hear that so much. When I get 3 new clients, I'm going to take your course. When I get 3 new clients, I'm going to buy that book. When I get 3 new clients, I'm going to give up AOL. But it doesn't work like that. It's a chicken and egg situation. You really, and as a chicken owner, you need to jump in and lean into that. So I'm going to look at the questions real quick. So Colette says, how do you keep yourself organized running several businesses? Is there an app that you use? I struggle with organization. And we can go right into Q&A a couple minutes early. And this is, if you have questions about anything that I talked about, and if you're watching the replay, whatever, you can email me. I cannot help you find a virtual assistant. So if you're listening to me and thinking, oh, she knows so many VAs, that's not part of what I offer, but I am happy to answer any questions about any of this. So Colette, how do I keep myself organized running several businesses? There is not an app that, well, there are many apps that I use. So let's talk about that. Do you guys know what shiny object syndrome is? Probably, right? It's when you jump around all over the place for different things. You need to stay focused. You need to do one thing at a time. I recently wrote an article about multitasking because somebody said to me, multitasking is doing a lot of things, only just stopping and starting really fast. And that actually sounds to me dangerous, like running with scissors. So you don't want to do that. You just want to pick one thing at a time and then say to yourself, now I'm going to work on this. And now I'm going to work on this. You also want to create detailed project plans, for what you're working on and the steps so you can track, But a lot of it is just doing one thing at a time and deciding when to shift my focus, right? When to shift my focus. You'll get a lot more doing that than you will, just jumping around all the time. Can you please name the book, the name of that book and the author? Yes, I thought I had it right here on my desk. I guess I don't. It's Mike Michalowicz, and it's called Clockwork, and you can find it anywhere. It's been around for a while. It's really good. When I just started out, how much capital did you invest in your organization? So Mark, are you talking about, if you're talking about Rocket Girl Solutions, so my service-based organization, a laptop. A laptop was really what I had. And like I said, I did start out with pencil, or actually a pen, and a notebook. And then I started looking for free systems, like for project management, you can use Asana or Trello. And it's a good exercise when you're starting out to get some software like that and just map out what you're trying to do. Because if you don't, this is my little dirty secret here, but I'm handling it. These are my ideas. I have all these ideas. You can't put your revenue generating ideas on Post-its. These are other ideas. But you do need to sit down and map out what you're trying to accomplish. But for service-based, there really isn't a lot that you need to invest in. And you're going to learn what you need as you go. If someone would have handed me my mature virtual assistant business, or even more so, the VA connection 3 years ago, I would have passed out. I would not have been able to handle it, because systems are built incrementally. And when you have a system to help you do something, and it stops working, the first thing to do is high five yourself, because you outgrew it. Like, okay, I just outgrew my system, yay me, versus there's something wrong, we have to, force this. We run a lot of events, probably 6 or 7 a week, and we started making mistakes. And my first thought, because my people are awesome, I thought, oh, our system's broken, this is good news. So we built a new system to track what we're doing. All right.
Thanks, Belinda. I'm just going to jump in. Just remind people, if you would want to type in a question, you can do that using the Q&A button. And maybe we'll also check with Barb to see if there are any in-person questions from the KNOWN Coworking space. Barb?
No, we don't have any questions here. Thanks.
Okay.
If there's another topic that you'd like me to expand on, I'm happy to do that as well. But I can't believe that you guys don't have any questions. I just fed you from a fire hose. So let me know what you're thinking about, or tell me what kind of business you're starting. I would love to hear that in the Q&A as well.
Actually, Belinda, this is Barb. I do have a question. So I've gotten the message, you're now the fourth person in a row in the last couple of weeks that has given me the message, like, don't put all your energy into social media, instead put it into your email list. And it's mainly because you don't own their social media platform, and the algorithm can change, but you own your email list. And it's a pretty intimate connection with people. And so what I have been doing in the past is just a monthly newsletter where I do something. So I'm a boundaries coach and I'm a podcaster. And so I give them the links to my last few weeks of podcasts. I do an article that is topical about the stuff that I do. And then I have a place called Coaching Corner where I put some other kind of personal growth, something that I found helpful. And then I have an anti-racism corner because that's important to me. And I'm just sharing resources with people. And I want to take my efforts away from social media, put them into my email newsletter. And I feel like I want to do something weekly and have it be brief. Because when I think about, I'm on 7 million email lists. There's 2 of them that I read every week, the day they come out.
Yeah.
And it's because they're brief and they're juicy. And one of the ideas I have is I have a ton of 1-minute reels that I have been putting on Instagram, which are very popular. And I was thinking that one of the things I might do in my weekly email is download some of those reels and then send those 1-minute videos in the weekly thing that I'm going to be sending out. And I wanted to know what you think about that. And then I'm definitely going to look up the other score training you did on email newsletters, but I'd love to hear anything else that you have to say about what I've just said, or any other like suggestions that you can make for all of us about like what to include in the email newsletter, how frequently to do it. Do you segment your audience in your email list? Things like that.
That's a great question. Thank you. So the first thing I want to say is that I want to tell you what happened to me on the other side of, excuse me, publishing at this point a couple hundred newsletters. What happened was, so when I first started publishing newsletters, I'm getting them out to people. Then I'm able to put them on my website. Then LinkedIn creates something. I'm able to share them there. Excuse me. And then what I've done, which you reminded me of, is for the VA connection, I've taken my newsletters and they've become a script for a weekly live show. Then once a week, in addition to that weekly live show, I'll do something longer, more this type of format, but it's all based on the newsletter. From there, I compiled all of my newsletters and I'm writing a book. So doing this, it's like an incremental way to just grow this giant amount of information that's in your brain by writing these, 450 words a week, and shooting them out there. So I think of all of my content as a big, giant, juicy yellow lemon, and I am just trying to squeeze it out. So recently, LinkedIn came out with LinkedIn newsletters. So now I'm taking old newsletters that I wrote 2 or 3 years ago that are evergreen and still relevant, and I'm putting them out on LinkedIn newsletters and have many, many subscribers that may or may not be on my, traditional email newsletter list. So you definitely want to use that as many ways as you can. In terms of frequency, when I started Rocket Girl Solutions, I published my newsletter every other Thursday. And that was because I wanted to generate revenue immediately. When I started the VA connection, I was publishing every other week, and I realized it wasn't enough because people didn't have the relationship with me yet. So now I actually publish twice a week for the VA connection and have grown the list quite a bit by doing that. Now, the components of what's in the newsletter make a big difference. So I name my newsletter something. It's not the Belinda newsletter or the Rocket Girl newsletter. It's Rocket Fuel, practical things you need to know to grow your business. So it's sort of like a magazine format, sort of brought to you by kind of a feeling. Then I have a personal welcome with my picture, with my handwritten signature, again, trying to create the connection, an article that you can go to Rocket Girl Solutions or the VAconnection.com, and you can see hundreds of articles that are that I've written that will show you what I'm talking about. And then something personal, things I can't live without, a way to bring myself personally, into the conversation, like a lemon juice squeezer or my new iPhone or something like that. And then there's a link to get onto my calendar. So that's the format. I would be careful about bringing in other things, as important as they might be to you, into your newsletter that will confuse people. I would make it all about your business. And if you want to have something on racial injustice, I probably wouldn't put it in your coaching newsletter unless you're coaching specifically on that topic. People will get too confused, they'll get overwhelmed, it's just too much. I mean, look at Seth Godin. He's someone that writes a newsletter-ish every single day. There's no fluff. It's like, here's what I'm thinking. That's it. And he's one of the ones that I read every single day. So you just want to be careful in terms of the format, that it's not overwhelming, and that and there's nothing to suggest this, but I just want to say to everyone, and that it's not about you. The newsletters, it's not the about me show. It's the about how can I help you. It's about being in service, which is very different.
I think that's very helpful and very practical advice. We do have one additional question from Letitia, and is asking, can you recommend a CMS, which I'm assuming is a client management system?
It depends on what industry you're in. I think, so I'll tell you why I'm hemming and hawing here. I used one for years. They went out of business. And so right now, all my people are in an Excel spreadsheet looking for the next home. I would look at Capsule, Contactually, not Contactually, that's the one that went out of business. Insightly, Copper is another one. They don't need to be expensive. It's really a CRM for us. People get sold kind of a bill of goods, like, you're going to do all this marketing automation. Unless you have a ton of content and 15,000 or 7,000 contacts, it just doesn't work that way. It's going to be one relationship at a time. So you can even do it in Excel, but I would look at one of these solutions that I just mentioned, put your contacts in there and see what you need, from there. See what you need from there.
Okay.
I think we have a couple more questions. So, can you recommend tool for tracking financials? The day-to-day tracking of financials I do in Excel, and then monthly I move it into QuickBooks. That's how I do that.
And there's one about a provider for electronic newsletter.
Yeah, there are many out there. Constant Contact is one. My favorite, hands down, MailChimp. It's a great application. I've been using it consistently for, I don't know, 10 years. Really good, excellent help. You can Google anything and you'll come to the answer. So that's what I recommend. The length of the newsletter is about 400 or 500 words in the primary article, and the content for my newsletters I get out of my head. So typically what I do is I'll say, what do people keep asking me about? Like, I'll look at my, for Rocket Girl, I'll look at how I'm tracking my time, and I'll look at, okay, what am I spending time on? What do people keep asking me about? And that's what I write about.
Okay, I think we're approaching the top of the hour, and that's all the time we have for questions. Just as a reminder, there has been a few questions in there. The session has been recorded, and a recording will be available on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, within the next day or so, and you can access that by just clicking on demand webinars. Our next SCORE workshop is on Tuesday, October the 11th at 7 p.m. at the Westport Library. The topic is Networking and Submitting Your Business Case with Diane Winson and Joe McCaffrey presenting. And again, if you'd like to take advantage of the free mentoring, and you can use that link that's on the screen, or you can go to our website and just click on the Request a Mentor button. We'd really appreciate it if you'd fill out your evaluations, which will be sent right after this webinar. And I'd like to thank Barb Nangle and KNOWN Coworking for hosting the in-person event and for their help in planning this workshop with SCORE. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's live workshop. And in closing, big thank you to Belinda for presenting, and stay well, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Belinda.